I thought I was helping a stranger, then I realized who they really were. It started on a rainy afternoon. I was walking home when I saw an elderly man struggling with his groceries. His bags had ripped, and everything was spilling onto the wet sidewalk. Naturally, I stopped to help. He seemed grateful, but something about him felt off. He kept glancing over his shoulder like he was being watched. When I offered to carry his bags to his car, he hesitated, but then he nodded and said, "Thank you, young man." As we walked, he started asking me questions. Where I lived, where I worked, if I had family nearby. I thought he was just being friendly, so I answered without thinking too much about it. When we reached his car, he turned to me and said, "You're a good kid, but you shouldn't trust strangers so easily." Before I could respond, he handed me a small crumpled piece of paper and drove off. I stood there in the rain, staring at the paper. It had a single word written on it: run. Confused and a little scared, I started walking home faster. That's when I noticed a black SUV parked down the street. The engine was running and the windows were tinted. I couldn't see inside, but I felt like someone was watching me. I picked up the pace, clutching the note in my hand. When I got home, I locked the door and called the police. They told me to stay inside and wait for an officer to arrive. While I waited, I decided to look up the license plate number I'd memorized from the SUV. What I found made my blood run cold. The car was registered to a man who had been reported missing 10 years ago. When the police arrived, they told me something even more chilling. The elderly man I'd helped? He didn't exist. There was no record of him, no trace of the car he was driving. And the SUV? It was gone. To this day, I don't know who that man was or why he warned me, but I do know one thing. He saved my life that day, and I'll never forget his words. You shouldn't trust strangers so easily. Would you have trusted him?